Welcome to the stream. Those seconds went by so quickly. Welcome to the stream. Saturday, officially night, but not too late. Not starting too late. We're back with Higurashi. I will say, with mild confidence, that for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing just one a week Higurashi streams. I think next week, we're going to bounce back to both Tuesday and Saturday next week of Higurashi. So keep that in mind, I guess. Of course, barring any special circumstances or whatever, right? Like we had this past week where I just lose motivation and don't do something for most of the week, you know. But I'm assuming that I went through that this week. I'm not going to double up and do that again this week or next week. You know what I mean? That's my hopes. But yeah, welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing great. You look fabulous. That's right. You. I can see you through my monitor or your monitor. I can't even make the joke properly. We're here for Higurashi. It is Outbreak. Higurashi Outbreak is the name of the game for tonight. If it goes super short, or, you know, if it's not super long, then I'm honestly kind of debating just switching over to something else also tonight. Kind of like double up, even, potentially. But we'll see. Kind of depends on how we feel if and when we finish Outbreak tonight. Do I want to rewatch this? I'm trying to decide. I don't think we do. I think it was fine, but I don't even think it was one of the best opening movie things, so I think we can avoid that. So yeah, I don't know what is this? Should I? Let's just see what happens if I click it. Should I? You know what? I'll actually... This is why we have the internet. I don't know. A quick Google search doesn't give me an answer. It might just be something along the lines of like the cast review thing or staff office thing. So maybe it's just looks and it's organized differently. So yeah, we read last week, a week ago, 7 days ago, we read Bus Stop, Higurashi Bus Stop. That was actually really good. I thought it was actually pretty decent and interesting. You know, despite it not being super mysterious, because I think a third of the way through the reading, I think I figured out what was actually like happening, but it still wrapped up in a nice way. It was interesting, again, knowing full context, especially that allegedly, apparently, that idea then evolved into Higurashi itself that we read is super cool to see. It's the kind of stuff I like to see here in these extra arcs / supplemental streams they're doing for Higurashi. But unlike Bus Stop from last week, I have actually no idea what Outbreak is. Like, I went in sort of knowing and not looking up necessarily, but I just knew what Bus Stop as like a concept was, right? But I don't know what Outbreak is. I'm unfamiliar, and I was too lazy to check it. It is funny that if you look close enough, you can kind of see the like the sprites that we don't use here on this channel. So let's read this. It says, Higurashi When They Cry Outbreak Takeshi and the others face a brand new tragedy. The mysterious virus and the panic it creates are such laughable sights. What the hell does that mean? The difficulty is average. Is this the beginning of the end, question mark? Or has it already reached its conclusion? It is your job to bear witness to that. Making no sense. Good. 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 Boop. Send me into the fragment. Outbreak. I can't tell by that... it's a work of fiction, guys. In case you didn't know. I can't tell if the description was meaning it's going to be a normal mood thing or like a goofy. Is it a silly arc? June 27th, Monday, day 1. I guess we'll find out. This is the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. As of 4 o'clock today, we have quarantined the Hinamazawa region and other surrounding regions as designated by the prefectural governor. Just something about Outbreak. Remember when we were back in, like... Was it, like, PS3 generation? Where, for some reason, there were, like, a string of games that were doing, like, expansion, standalone, expand-alone, like, DLC bits, where they would basically take, like, a game and then make it zombified. I mean, that's what Outbreak makes me think of. It was like, there was like Infamous did it, and they had like a vampire zombie thing. I forget what it's called. And then didn't Red Dead Redemption do something like that? Because I think it was a way for like game devs to reuse like a lot of assets and a lot of like obviously pre-made, already made like I keep wanting to say land, like, you know, the world that they created, right? And then there was also like this is like maybe slightly different, but I think Yakuza did a zombie thing as well. But that's just what Outbreak reminds me of. Are we gonna do zombies? Like straight up zombies in my Higurashi? We ask that all the residents of these areas please remain indoors and wait further instructions. Please use your televisions, radios, and the disaster management radio system to stay informed. You will not be permitted to leave this district until we can confirm it medically safe to do so. We repeat, you will not be permitted to leave this district. Any who do not comply will be dealt with according to national law. So everyone, we must ask that you please return to your homes and remain calm. It was really hard to hear that rough voice over the roar of their camouflaged helicopter. Have discovered the outbreak of a previously unknown virus. This virus has been classified as one of the most hazardous of viruses by the World Health Organization. Oh, the World Health Organization? The one that my country just decided to exit for some fucking reason? Big bulgy eyes face made behind the camera that you can't see. Several government sources have already confirmed an offer from the American government to provide emergency assistance in developing a vaccine. We believe our government has already begun preparation to accept their aid. This virus has an incubation period stretching 30 to 50 days. They're scrambling to secure enough vaccine for the 2,000 quarantined residents. At the present time, all phone lines to the Inamazawa district are flooded, and reaching anyone within is nearly impossible. Current congestion is making it difficult for the prefecture's disaster prevention center to ascertain the exact situation. Furthermore, a ban on tap water and well water has been put in place. Please do not consume any water except that provided by the SDF's water trucks. In addition, illegally parking on any roads will hinder the disaster relief efforts. Please, relocate your vehicles at once.
社名党の貝原代表は自衛隊の災害派遣命令に対し適切な手順が省かれた問題を指摘し、これを軍国主義へ回帰するものとして激しく非難。アジアでの一層の孤立化を招くものとして。
Representative Unabara of the Democratic Socialist Party has criticized the avoidance of proper procedures in ordering the dispatch of SDF disaster relief, strongly voicing his opinion that this is a step backward towards militarism, which could lead to further isolation of our nation within the Asian political community.
こちらは災害対策本部です。本日12時より以下に定める場所にて一斉診察が行われます。町会、自治会の指示に従って参集してください。特別な事情がない限り必ず受診してください。体調に異常が認められる方は必ずその旨。
This is the XX Prefecture Disaster Prevention Center. At 12 o'clock today, we shall conduct simultaneous medical examinations of following locations. Please follow the instructions of your town or neighborhood council as you assemble there. Please make certain you get examined unless you have extenuating circumstances. If you notice any symptoms of illness, you must... This is the JGSDF by order of your prefectural governor. This region has been quarantined to prevent the further spread of disease. You are not permitted to leave the quarantine zone. We promise to secure food, water, other daily necessities, electricity, communication systems for everyone. Please continue to remain calm. All of a sudden, one day, the peaceful boredom of everyday life was shattered. I doubt anyone woke up today expecting it to be any different from an ordinary early summer morning. The sky was just as blue as ever, and the sun rose just as it always did. Yet, the helicopters flying at low altitudes with their speakers blaring, and the sight of traffic backed up at a blockade on the main road into the city, were enough to let everyone know that this morning was anything but normal. Sorry, adjusting my mic there. Squeak! Goes the mic arm. By the time it was broadcast on the morning news, the confusion had already settled down to a degree. The residents of Inamazawa couldn't act like this was all happening in some distant city as they listened to the emergency broadcasts, because there was no doubt that this emergency was happening in the very town we lived in. I stirred restlessly on my bed like I usually did before eventually crawling out, and when I came down to our dining room, I found my parents glued to the television, which is where I learned the news, peeking over their shoulders. I wonder just how many villagers muttered the same thing I did at first. What? What's going on? Kechi, it's awful. Listen, they discovered a horrible disease here in Hinamazawa, and they've quarantined the whole village. This is terrible. When do you think they're going to let us go? I need to head out for a meeting tomorrow for the event in Osaka. Quarantined? Then we can't go into town either? Looks like it. They said they provide food, but this is a real pain. We barely have anything in our refrigerator since today's when they have that special sale down in Okinomiya. More importantly, what is this virus anyway? Has to be pretty dangerous if they're quarantining the whole region, right? What's going on here? Are we infected too?
今テレビでその説明してるよ。発症すると1週間ほどで以下の症状がって。
Shh. They're explaining on the TV right now. Once the initial signs appear, the following symptoms develop over the following week. Huh? Our entire family. No, I'm sure everyone in the village went speechless as that footage played. A small African village was completely annihilated, and the terrible spectacle was almost too gory to look at, given the unrecognizable state of the resulting corpses. The people out of this danger's reach were being irresponsible in satisfying their urge to spectate, watching this footage of the harm dealt by this mysterious, heretofore unknown virus. Before those of us directly faced with this crisis, it was far too real and far too terrifying. God, it reminds me of, this is such a random poll, but I was just randomly recently thinking of the game, but 428, 428, Shibuya Scramble. A game I fucking love. Did I read this? But for those of us directly faced with the crisis, it was far too real and far too terrifying. I suddenly glanced up at the clock and saw that it was long past time for me to meet up with Rina. I was already late. Normally, Rina would have come to pick me up directly if I was over 5 minutes past our meeting time, but that didn't happen this morning. Of course not. I'm sure Rina is also glued to the TV along with her family right about now. Either that, or maybe she's currently infected with this mysterious virus and is suffering under its symptoms. The moment that thought reached my mind, I started worrying about not just her, but Mion, Satoko, and Rika-chan as well. I ran for our telephone in the hallway on impulse and tried dialing a number, but I didn't even hear the usual dial tone. It made sense. The whole village and the population of those outside with relatives in the area probably went for the receivers all at once, just as I had. It was reasonable to assume that the phone lines couldn't keep up. That left me wanting to visit them to make sure of their safety in person. But the whole village could be full of pockets of that dangerous virus. Wouldn't it be suicide to barge outdoors in that case? Keiichi, come here, quickly! My dad was just coming out of his atelier. His arms were full of cardboard boxes. From what I could see, they were packed full of duct tape wrapped in unopened vinyl bags. Apparently my dad had them in stock to use with his paintings or something. Didn't even question why I'd grabbed duct tape in this emergency. I understood immediately why my dad was calling for me to help. Keiichi, you cover the second floor. Shut the windows tight, seal them up with duct tape. Our air conditioner might be connected to the air outside too. Cover the AC vents with newspaper, and seal them up with duct tape. I'll cover the first floor. Your mom can cover the kitchen.
お父さん、今さらそんなことしても仕方ないでしょ。ガムテープなんかじゃ極小のウイルスを防ぐ効果なんて全然ないわよ。
I know I'm probably not the only person who thinks this way, and I apologize if anyone hears this and is like, ugh, when I bring it up, just momentarily. But like, ever since like the whole COVID thing happened, I now look at whenever in any kind of media, whether it's a movie or television show, or now even like a visual novel or video game, ever discusses anything like a viral outbreak, like even if it's made prior to COVID, or especially if it was made prior to the whole COVID thing, like I just look at it completely differently. Like there's this like thing in the back of my mind where I'm like, yeah, we went through obviously a strange time during that whole thing, and obviously it's different and this is fictionalized and it's being treated differently and it's, you know, whatever, but like it just like makes me like there is like now whenever, because the COVID thing was such a big deal at the time, back now, Jesus, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it is so weird to now like read or watch anything that discusses with like any sort of form, whatever amount of scale it is, any kind of like pandemic type situation. It's always so strange. Ryukishi did 2020. No, Ryukishi's like, it's like that thing they talk about with, like, Hideo Kojima, where, like, his games are, like, weirdly prophetic. It's just a prophecy type situation. He just called it so many years prior. Anyway, dear, it's too late for any of that. Duct tape won't do anything to keep microorganisms out.
それでも少しは違うだろうが、いいから母さんもやりなさい。
It'll still make a small difference. Just help already. My dad's tone made it clear that he wasn't going to suffer any objections. But my mom was right. She was being relatively calm given the situation. Viruses are tiny organisms smaller than even dust, so it was pretty delusional to think that sealing up openings with store-bought duct tape could keep them out. At the same time, I understood how my dad was feeling too. It was just so sudden. Even if there was no scientific backing to his beliefs, and even though it wouldn't make any difference, he still had to try and do something to stop it. Again, not to keep bringing it up, but like, it's the same thing. Like, when people feel helpless, they're gonna do whatever they can, even if it's like there's no science backing something, to like, we've seen after 2020, people are willing to try anything. Like, not to make light of the situation or anything, but like, there were people fucking disinfecting their groceries for no real discernible difference in what the actual virus was. But like, people were like, oh, I could do that because it might potentially help. So there were people, and it's the same here, right? If people feel helpless and you're getting it outside news that's like, hey, this is a real big deal, take caution, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, let's grab the duct tape and fucking seal our windows or whatever the fuck his dad is doing. Duct tape the windows. That would comfort his mind far more than just sitting in front of the television. Whenever my mom, oddly stubborn, and my father, wildly emotional, start arguing like that, I go up to the second floor to avoid them. Damn, too real? My mom was right. I knew we couldn't really do anything to prevent infection, but I shared my dad's desire to do something about it, even if it was just for my own peace of mind. I looked out the window. The grand sight before me was a view I took pride in, one that moved me deeply when I first arrived here. The magnificent scenery itself was the same view as always of Hinamizawa's beautiful traditional buildings, yet today there was no sight of any villagers. I couldn't spot a single villager out working the paddy fields. I was certain that the stubborn old farmers wouldn't ditch their work, even today, but that silly hope of mine was shattered. To be honest, it made me realize I was hoping to find solace in the sight of them carrying on like normal. Even the most stubborn of the village elders weren't out working their fields. Maybe they were afraid of getting infected with the virus, or maybe they were afraid of another villager thinking they were infected instead. In that sense, my dad's amateur idea of trying to keep the virus out with duct tape might be the more normal response, instead of questioning its effectiveness like my mom was doing. The village was shrouded in a silent fear. The only sounds to be heard were the voices over the disaster management radios and the roar of the SDF's helicopters. Those sounds only served to make the silence more chilling. Normally the chorus of the cicadas would be starting around this time, but their chorus didn't reach the villagers' ears. The bugs feel the virus, the viral outbreak. The bugs are the viral outbreak. The virus is in the bugs. June 28th, Tuesday, day 2. With the water supply shut off, we couldn't use our flush toilet. Our flush toilet. I just like it being called a flush toilet, even if it's technically correct. The SDF relief squad had set up portable bathrooms, but since my dad was strongly opposed to using them, the Myborough family continued to use our flush toilets without any running water. Uh-oh. We had kept our bath water to use for laundry, so we were managing by scooping that into the basin and flushing it away. According to my dad, the excrement of disease carriers would just be full of viruses, so he refused to let our family go out and use the public bathrooms, saying that was the same as going out to get ourselves infected. We didn't have that much water left in our bathtub, though, so we couldn't keep using a flush toilet without water forever. To make matters worse, since the virus... I was literally just about to say, like, how many times can you... I mean, you're not going to be able to... I feel like it... Like, I live by myself. And I feel like even if I filled up my bathtub with water... and then I was continuing to use the toilet, that's probably not going to last long. To make matters worse, since the virus involved here was a 1 month incubation has a 1 month incubation period, it wasn't hard to imagine the quarantine around Hinamazawa would last even longer than that. By my mom's quick estimate, the quarantine was likely to last 3 months. 3 whole months. It was the end of June, so the quarantine wouldn't be lifted until the end of September or maybe even October. That meant that the whole summer of 1983 was going to be cut away from Hinamazawa. It was very tragic for us. On the first day, we were caught up in the fear that the virus was everywhere outside of our house, but then the water trucks and relief supplies arrived thanks to the SDF, and once the doctors started their group examinations, we couldn't afford to stay completely shut inside any longer. Some people, like my dad, still refused to go outside even then, but they steadily started coming outside over time, both to secure necessities and assuage their fears of infection by having the doctors examine them. The same went for me. I couldn't stand staying cooped up in our creepy house with its duct-taped shutters, silently watching the television with no one but my family around. I was much more anxious to go outside and check on my friends' well-being. My dad continued to be stubborn about holing in the house, so my exasperated mom and I went to the group examinations together. The town council our family fell under had decided to conduct the examinations in the schoolyard. Lots of the villagers had gathered there, and we were all lined up according to the divisions used for the council's newsletters. The disparity between the villagers in their normal clothes and the doctors covered head to toe in a white raincoat-like suit was very unsettling. It was clear evidence that they suspected us all of being carriers of the virus. Ketch-kun!
Oh, Rena! よかったぜ。無事だったか。
Oh, Rena, thank goodness you're safe.
さっきみーちゃんに会ったよ。みーちゃんも元気そうだった。
Yeah, I just ran into Mi-chan. She was looking healthy too.
そうか。さとこやリカちゃんは？
Really? What about Satoko and Rika-chan?
リカちゃんたちは懲戒区分が違うと思うから、他の場所に集合してると思うよ。何度か電話してるんだけど、繋がらないの。
They're in a different division, so I think they had to go somewhere else. I've tried calling them a few times, but I can't get through.
俺も何度か電話してるが全然ダメだ。やっぱり電話が殺到してパンクしてるんだろうな。
I tried calling several times too, but I had no luck at all. Guess the phone lines are just too congested to handle it.
自衛隊の人の言うことを聞かないで暴走した車が事故で電柱を倒しちゃって、それで電話線を引きちぎっちゃったって噂を聞いたの。でも別の人は行政が関係者専用に設定を変えたので、一般市民は使用不能になってるとか言ってた。
I heard a rumor that there was someone in a car who wouldn't listen to the SDF's directions, so they had an accident and crashed into a telephone pole, cutting the lines out completely. But another person said the government has switched them over to authorized use only, so the average citizen can't use them right now.
早い話が情報が錯綜してて誰もが混乱してるってことか。
Long story short, everyone's confused and the information's all mixed up, huh? Right after I said that, someone smacked me hard on the back. It was Mion.
ケイちゃん、よかった、無事だったんだね。
Ki-chan, great to see you're safe.
俺のセリフだぜ。お前も無事でよかった。
That's my line. Glad to see you're safe too. Mion made a big show of wiping her tears away, enjoying our reunion after only a scant few days. There's no need to explain it at this point, I think, but the old customs here meant Hinamazawa was governed by 3 ancient clans known as the Three Families. Right now, Mion's family, the Sonozaki family, was the head of that organization. According to Mion, the Sonozaki family was already taking the initiative and leading the unified town council to try and settle the whole situation. They were also working together with the government and the SDF, so they had information that regular villagers didn't know about.
ミオ、ぶっちゃけた話どうなってんだ？そのウイルスってやつは本当に村人全員に感染してんのか？
Mion, Be blunt with us. What's going on? Has this virus really infected all the villagers?
早朝にあった説明ではその可能性は極めて薄いってさ。話では感染者が出たのは高津戸の方らしいんだよ。あっちはほとんど人が住んでないからね。素早く隔離封鎖がされたからひなみ沢地区には及んでないんじゃないかって言われてる。
According to this morning's explanation, the likelihood of that is pretty slim. From what they said, the infected show up over in Takatsudo, and hardly anyone lives over there. Since quarantine was set up so quick, they're saying that they don't think it's reached the Inamazawa area yet.
ひなみ沢地区の全員が白であることが確認できたら段階的に隔離は解除になるんじゃないかって楽観論も出てるよ。
Once they can confirm everyone in Inamazawa is clean, they're hopeful that they can start lifting the quarantine in stages.
そうならいいよね。高津戸に住んでる人には悪いけどひなみ沢地区だけでも早く隔離が終わるといいね。
I hope that's true. I feel bad for those living in Takatsudo, but it'll be nice that Inamazawa's quarantine's end soon. Kung. That was when Mion gave us a sharp look. Then she grabbed my head and Rina's, pulling us in close to her own. Then she whispered so quietly that only we could hear.
でも私はそう楽観的だとは思えないね。おじさん無線使えるんだけどさ、警察や自衛隊の回線にも入れるように改造してあるんだよ。そこで傍受してる限りはそんな簡単な話じゃないみたい。
But I don't think we can be that optimistic, actually. I'm able to use the radio myself, you know. I modified mine to pick up transmissions from the police and the SDF. From what I'm hearing there, this isn't that simple.
何しろひなみ沢は山間部の乾村で陸のこと。どういう経路で海外からこの村へウイルスが伝播したのか経路がさっぱりなんだよ。
After all, Inamazawa is a pretty isolated village all by itself here in a mountain range. They don't have a clue how this virus managed to transmit itself here from overseas.
現在行政が把握してる発症者は海外渡航歴がないらしくてね。他に潜在保菌者がいるんじゃないかって疑われてて、村人全員の海外渡航歴を調査中らしいよ。
So far, none of the infected people the government has discovered have any history of traveling out of the country. So now they're investigating the travel history of everyone in the village, wondering if there might be another carrier.
つまり誰かが海外で感染してこの村へ持ち込んだってわけか。
So you're saying that someone got infected while in a different country and brought this back to our village?
うん。何しろ潜伏期間に幅があるらしいからね。
Yeah.
持ち込んだ本人が未だ潜伏期の可能性が否定できないらしいんだよ。それにその人物に海外渡航歴がある保証もない。村の外で保菌者に接触して持ち込んだ可能性もあるからね。
Yeah, apparently there's some leeway in its incubation period. They can't rule out the chance that whoever brought it here is still incubating the disease. Also, there's no guarantee that the person ever traveled abroad at all. There's still a chance they got infected when they came into contact with a carrier from outside the village.
おじさんの睨んだところじゃ隔離地区はひなみ沢だけに収まらない。下手をすれば県内あるいは地方レベルにまでも及びかねないね。
But my guess, the quarantine zones won't be limited to just Inamazawa. Worst case is, the quarantine could extend to the prefecture or even into this whole part of the country.
なんてこった。
How can this be?
あとはここだけの話なんだけど、このウイルステレビで言ってる外国の殺人ウイルスってのとは別物らしいって噂もあるんだよ。
Also, this is just between us, but there's talk that this one might be different from the African killer virus they mentioned on TV.
どういうことだよ。
What do you mean?
私もよくはわからないんだけど、傍受できた無線の一部から今回のウイルス騒ぎをひなみ沢土着の風土病を疑うような内容が聞けたんだよ。
I'm not sure either, but some of the chatter I'm picking up on the radio suggests that they suspect this whole virus crisis might be caused by an endemic disease native to Inamazawa.
この殺人ウイルスが昔からひなみ沢に眠ってたってのか。
You mean some killer virus has been hiding in Inamazawa for years?
私もよくはわかんないけど、ただひなみ沢の古い伝承には沼から不浄な何かが湧き出して 村を襲ったという話が残ってる。それが再び湧き出したのではないかって疑えないこともないね。
I'm not sure either. The only thing I do know is that there's an old legend still passed on around here that talks about something impure rising from the swamp and attacking the village. Makes you wonder whether something's risen up out of there again. Is this a fragment universe thing where something along the lines of, like, you know, the whole story, I guess spoilers for Higurashi proper, right? Where fucking the whole thing deal is if the queen carrier, in this case like Rika, she dies, and then everyone's infected in Hinamizawa, and because the queen carrier's dead, then the thing... Is it like a branch of a story, like a fragment where something like that has happened, where the queen carrier, whoever it is, whether it's Rika or someone else or whatever the case, dies, and then it's like we're seeing what would happen if the outbreak actually occurred, and it wasn't like the village wasn't just fucking nuked, like we saw in the bad endings of like the main story or something. It might be something like that. Maybe. Early thoughts.
でもみーちゃん、だとしたらまだ安心できるね。だってその大昔の時には村が滅んだわけじゃないんでしょ。ということはテレビで言ってる村を全滅させるようなウイルスよりはずっと毒性が弱いってことだよ。
But Mi-chan, if that's true, then we can rest easy. I mean, the village wasn't wiped out all those years ago, right? Which means far less lethal than the virus they're talking about on TV that wipes out whole villages.
鬼が淵村の伝承では沼より湧き出した浮上に取りつかれると鬼と化したらしい。結局人の手では何もできず、お社様の降臨まで人々に打つ手はなかった。
According to the myths of old Onifuji, anyone possessed by the impurity from the swamp became a demon. In the end, the villagers couldn't do anything. They were at their wits' end until Oshiro-sama descended before them.
つまり伝説に残るような奇跡が起こるまで村はその災禍から逃れられなかったってことだな。
Which means the village couldn't escape that disaster until a miracle occurred.
そうだね。奇跡が起こらなければ村は全滅してたってことだね。
Exactly. If not for that miracle, the village would have been wiped out. It seemed there were a lot of older villagers who believed this whole virus commotion was Oishiro-sama's curse. I could see them here and there going through rosaries and offering prayers up as they begged for forgiveness.
お社様の生まれ変わりであるリカちゃんがそれを否定してくれれば騒ぎは落ち着くんだろうけどね。バッチャが今自衛隊の人にそれを説明してるところだよ。
That commotion would settle down if Rika-chan, the reincarnation of Oishiro-sama, would just deny that it's the curse. My granny's trying to explain it to the people from the SDF right now.
まあ、よそから来た連中にはリカちゃまのこの村における意味は理解できないだろうからね。
Well, I doubt outsiders can understand what Rika-chan means to this village.
だな。迷信の話は抜きにしても俺も早く無事なリカちゃんとサトコの姿を見て安心したいぜ。
Yeah, the superstitions aside, it would be a relief to see Rika-chan and Satoko myself. That's right. Hinamizawa has a unique religion that worships a guardian deity known as Oishiro-sama. Central to that faith was the legend of Oishiro-sama's curse, so there were a lot of villagers conflating that curse with the current commotion. That was why everyone wanted to see Rika Furude, who is considered to be Oishiro-sama's reincarnation, alive and healthy, and hear her proclaim that this commotion had nothing to do with Oishiro-sama. It was the first emergency situation of this manner that the village had faced. No one had yet to recover from the shock to their heart, and they wanted something to cling to. But even if the village was ruled by superstition, it was still a part of modern 20th century Japan, so of course they wanted to respond calmly without mulling about in confusion. So many had decided for themselves that as long as they saw Rika Furude safe and sound, then they would regain their composure. Fade away. It also meant that if they couldn't see Rika Furude, that they would remain lost in their superstitions. Ah. She's a ghost now. July 6th, Wednesday, day 10. Oh shit. Without school, I'd completely lost my sense for what day it was, so the television programming was all that barely maintained my sense of daily life. For the first few days, the television only covered what they dubbed the Hinamizawa virus outbreak and the resulting quarantine. Once the 10th day had passed, the news only mentioned it when something special was happening. As far as the public was concerned, some minister or another hadn't cut his golf game short when the Hinamizawa crisis happened or something. So they quibbled over that, which led to queries into his secretary's salary or something. All completely pointless stuff. So long as it wasn't brought up in the news, society probably deluded themselves into believing the virus crisis was resolved. Couldn't help but realize how coldly society gorged itself on the misfortune of others. By this point, most villagers had gotten over their hesitation to go outside, at least to collect supplies and such. Lately, Mion's been wondering if it's not just our village being quarantined, but Okinomiya as well. We didn't have to go into town to shop, and some had started joking that it was much easier with water and food all being delivered for free. I'd forced a smile at that, but I couldn't shake the sense of entrapment brought on by the quarantine lasting 10 days already. The same went for Mion. She sounded lighthearted and carefree on the surface, but Mion couldn't shake the anxiety from her expression either. With the way things were, staying at home wasn't helping. If I was at least talking to someone, I could distract myself. I even started volunteering to help carry the plastic tanks of drinking water, excited at the chance to see my friends by the water supply. Of course, it wasn't like it was fun, though. When we saw each other, we only shared our anxieties. But even so, it was still far better than huddling under a blanket all by myself.
Kei-chan! 具合は良さそうだね。変な斑点とか出てない？
Ki-chan, you look well. Got any strange spots?
みーちゃん、それ冗談になってない。
Mi-chan, that's not funny.
ミオ、レナもか。よかった。相変わらず電話が通じないからな。こうして会えるとホッとするぜ。
Mion, and Rena too? Thank goodness the phones are still out, as usual, so seeing you here is a relief.
だね。レナも最近は学校が再開してくれないかなって思うくらいだもん。はあ。
Yeah, lately I've been wishing they'd reopen the school. How? If the school were to reopen, then we could all think back on our peaceful everyday lives, and do our best to pretend everything was fine. But, I guess not. If I recall, Chie-sensei lives in Okinomiya, so they can't reopen the school if she can't get there because of the quarantine.
せっかく未曾有の大災害で休校なんだからさ、たまにはこういうライフを満喫するのも悪くないけどね。
Well, it's not so bad. Since school's closed over this unprecedented disaster, we should take the chance to enjoy living free like this. Mion's personality is truly valuable in times like this. She could get the conversation going easily and make it as light as our usual everyday chatter. But in the end, she brought the conversation back to our worries about our current situation.
そうだ、レナ、ケイちゃん、気を悪くしないで聞いて。ここだけの話だから。
Alright, Rena, Ki-chan, don't get upset, but listen. This is just between us, okay? Mion drew us both behind cover and lowered her voice to a whisper. This picture again.
どうしたの、みーちゃん。
What? What is it, Mi-chan?
また何か情報でも分かったのか？
Have you learned something new? The SDF gave us a good enough explanation when the quarantine first started, but lately they haven't made any more announcements about the ongoing situation. That meant we were left with nothing but rumors and word of mouth. But since we are further isolated based on how we are divided under the council, the villagers had limited interaction with each other, and even those rumors weren't able to get around well enough. Fortunately enough, our village had a decent amount of amateur radio fans, so they were using their radios to contact each other. Mion was one of the people using her radio to check how the other quarantined areas were doing, trying to get a grasp of the full state of Inamizawa.
何しろ、未だ電話が回復しないからな。こういう時、本当に無線は貴重だぜ。それで何が分かったんだ？
Well, our phone line still hadn't recovered, so the radios are really crucial in times like these. So, did you learn anything?
うん。というか、リカちゃんが収容されて容体不明ってのは本当らしい。
Yes, well, it sounds like it's true that Rika-chan's been taken into custody, and no one knows what's going on with her. She took a brief pause after that. The Sonozaki family had been strongly requesting that Rikafude go around the village so they could wipe away any fears of Oishiro-sama's curse, but those demands kept getting ignored. The SDF didn't want a carrier traversing the village and spreading infection, so they kept each council area strictly isolated, and so none of the villagers could find out how Rikafude was doing, which only stirred their anxieties up even more. If anything were to happen to her, the reincarnation of Oishiro-sama, then that could only mean one thing. The end of the village as passed down in legend. That fear had finally reached its logical conclusion. If they couldn't get information on Rikafude, then something had happened to her. And the SDF was trying to cover it up. That fear had made it, That fear had made its way into rumor. Everyone denied those rumors, of course, but the only way to get rid of them was for the villagers to see Rikafude safe and sound. That wasn't happening, though. So the villagers' collective anxiety was only growing stronger.
リカちゃんが容体不明ってどういうことなの？リカちゃんがウイルスにやられちゃったってことなの？
What do you mean no one knows how Rika-chan's doing? Are you saying Rika-chan got hit by the virus?
声が大きいよ。ウイルスかどうかは知らないけど、とにかく貿易部隊に収容されて、その後戻ってこないらしいの。安否は不明。連れてかれたのは何人かが目撃していて間違いないって。
Shh, you're being too loud. I don't know if it was a virus, but either way, she was taken into custody by the disease control squad. She hasn't been seen since. No one knows if she's safe. Several different people witnessed her being taken away, so that's certain at least.
それはいつの話だ？
When did that happen?
隔離の当日だって。
The day of the quarantine?
さとこちゃんはリカちゃんと一緒に住んでるんだから、その。
And Satoko-chan, she lives with Rika-chan, so, well, if Rika-chan fell victim to the virus, then as her housemate, Satoko would have.
そこまで詳しくは。
I don't have any info on that.
だろうな。村の年寄り連中はリカちゃんのことに関心はあっても、サトコのことは全く無関心だからな。
Figures. The elders of the village may care about Rika-chan, but they've never wanted anything to do with Satoko.
さとこちゃんも収容されたのかな。
Do you think Satoko-chan was taken into custody too?
さとこは収容されたわけじゃないみたい。感染者が出たら同居人だって疑うのが貿易の基本だと思うんだけどね。
Doesn't sound like it, though I think it's just basic disease control to suspect infection if anyone living with an infected person.
無線で聞く限りは収容されたのはリカちゃんだけで、さとこはそういうわけじゃないみたい。それでね、なんだか妙な話になってるんだよ。
From what I'm hearing on the radio, only Rika-chan was taken in. Satoko wasn't, apparently. Also, this part sounds kind of strange, but...
妙な話？
strange.
ほら、さとこの両親がダムの誘致派だったのは知ってるでしょ？
Yeah. So, you know how Satoko's parents were in favor of the dam being built, right?
それで、お社様の罰が当たって事故死しちゃって。
And how afterward they died in an accident due to Oishiro-sama's curse?
さとこちゃんの北条家がお社様にたたられている、呪われているというような話？
You're talking about the rumor that Satoko-chan and the Hojo family are cursed and hated by Oishiro-sama?
罰当たり者のさとこがお社様の生まれ変わりである神聖なリカちゃまと同居すると汚れが移るかもしれないみたいなひどいことを言ってる連中が前からいたんだけど。
Yeah, there's always been a horrible group of people that said living with a cursed person like Satoko would cause her taint. I mean, it would cause her taint to pass on to the holy reincarnation, Rika-chan.
そういう連中が今回のお社様のたたりをさとこのせいだと言い出してるみたいなんだ。
And now those people are starting to say this is Oishiro-sama's curse, that Satoko's to blame.
なんだって？バカな話しやがって。連中は箸が転んでもサトコのせいだな。
What? That's stupid as hell. Those jerks will blame Satoko at the drop of a hat.
もちろん冗談だと信じたいけど、さとこをすまきにして鬼ヶ淵に沈めればお社様のお怒りが収まるんじゃないかって話が 向こうの町会でまことしやかに流れてるらしいよ。
Of course it's nonsense. But people in the other areas are starting to say they might be able to quell Oishiro-sama's anger by binding up Satoko and sinking her into the swamp. And they're talking like they believe it too.
そんな。ねえ、私たちってそんなにも未開人なの？文明人じゃないの？私たちが日常を失ってからやっと1週間が経った程度なのに、もうそんな迷信がはびこってるの？
No way. Are we savages now? I thought we were civilized. It's only been a week since our daily routines were broken, and we're already talking about drowning people in swamps? Rina's indignation was justified. But thinking back on it, Hinamizawa was possessed by some strange beliefs long before this whole virus commotion. Hinamizawa had never shown any proof it was a civilized land. The people there simply acted that way. But once you tore away the facade, they quickly revealed themselves as adherents to some truly bizarre delusions.
ミオンの表情を見る限り、どうも冗談で済まそうって話にはなってないらしいな。
Judging from your expression, Mion, you're not going to tell us this was some joke all along, right? Mion's silence and downcast stare affirmed it as true.
もちろん私も無線で冷静になるように言ってるよ。でもなかなか収まってくれない。
Of course I've told them they need to calm down over the radio, but they're not listening to me at all.
くそ、リカちゃんが収容されたということは、サトコは今一人であの倉庫小屋に暮らしてるわけか。万が一を考えると危なくないか。
Shit. Rika-chan's been taken into custody. That means Satoko is currently living in that storage hut all by herself. She's in danger if they try to pull anything, isn't she?
そうだね。さとこちゃん一人じゃできることに限界もあると思う。私たちのところにかくまう方がいいんじゃないかな。
True. There's only so much Satoko-chan can do by herself. Wouldn't it be better to shelter her in our area? Wouldn't it? Rina's suggestion was a good one. If we left Satoko alone like this, then those caught in those wild fantasies might go after her. But whose home would we shelter her in? According to Mion, the rumors that Satoko was already infected with the virus are being spread as though they're true. Word of mouth, that primitive means of communication was all Hinamizawa had. It was easy for rumors to work their way into such communication. And because of mass psychology, people convince themselves those statements are true, embellishing them even further until they become established fact. At that point, the truth won't matter. Satoko will effectively become one of the infected. Once that happens, whichever home takes her in will face the same treatment. It went without saying, but Mion's home, the Sonozaki family, were already on bad terms with Satoko and the Hojo family. It would be extremely difficult for Mion's family to shelter Satoko. What about my family? My mother would probably understand, but considering the fact my father's still obstinately refusing to expose himself to the outdoors, I couldn't imagine him taking Satoko in.
みんなのうちじゃどうせ無理だろうってのは分かってるよ。だからもしさとこちゃんをかくまおうってことになったらレナのうちでかくまうよ。大丈夫。お父さんには文句なんか言わせないから。
Yeah, I know it's impossible for your families, so if we do end up sheltering Satoko-chan, I'll shelter her in my home. Don't worry, I won't let my father voice any objections. I had no idea why, but Rina held control of her family's finances. So, if she got serious, she could make her father give in. It made me sad that I couldn't stick my chest out and say my family could too, and I hated that she just assumed it wasn't possible, but I couldn't do anything about that. It's not like that pride would matter in this situation.
わかった。サトコと接触できたら、レナの家へ行くよう伝えよう。いや、むしろなんとかサトコと接触をして、こちらへ呼びたいくらいだな。ミオンの話を聞く限り、サトコのいる町会周りはどうもヤバそうだからな。
Alright, if we can make contact with Satoko, we'll tell her to head to Rina's home. I wish I could reach out to her myself, but from what you've told us, Mion, it sounds like the area around Satoko's house is dangerous.
あっちは信心深くて過激な神社部の幹部が多いからね。でね、実はさとこだけの問題じゃないんだよ。場合によってはケイちゃんやレナも危ないかもしれないんだよ。
That's because there's a lot of strong believers who live around there. But, to be honest, Satoko's not the only problem. Depending how it goes, both of you two could be in trouble too. Mion's eyes grew even sharper, looking back and forth between me and Rina. Even though she was worried about Satoko, the chill in her gaze was enough to shred the naive thought that at least we would be safe.
先日も話したよね。例のウイルスがひなみ沢土着のものかもしれないって噂。その話がね、だいぶ信憑性を帯びてきててね。古来から村人全員が感染してたんじゃないかって言うんだよ。
I mentioned this the other day, right? The rumors that this virus might be indigenous to Inamizawa? Those rumors are starting to gain a lot of traction. Some are even saying every villager's probably been infected for hundreds of years.
だからそれじゃおかしいだろ。だったら昔から連日死者が出てなきゃならないぞ。
But that's just crazy. If that were true, then people would be dying every day for way back then. Or way back when.
そうだと言ってる連中の言い分が面白いんだよ。そのウイルスはこの村の中にいる限りは安定していて無害だって言うんだよ。
Well, the ones insisting on that argument have an interesting idea. They're saying that the virus remains stable and harmless as long as you stay in the village.
さらに言うと、この村にずっと長く住み続けている一族には生まれつきの免疫みたいなものがあって大丈夫だって話らしいんだよ。
They go even further, arguing that the families who have lived in this village for many, many years are all born with an immunity that keeps them safe.
さっぱりわからねえぞ。つまりなんだ、まさか例えばよそから引っ越してきた俺やレナはその免疫がないからとか言い出すんじゃないだろうな。
I don't get it. So what? Are you telling me they're saying that people like Rina and I, who moved here from outside, are at risk because we don't have that immunity?
まさにそれだよ。近年ひなみ沢に引っ越してきた人間のせいでそのウイルスの調和が崩れて、その村人全員のウイルスがおかしくなって、
That's exactly it. They're saying our harmony or whatever with the virus is collapsing because of the people moving into Inamizawa. And, that's making the virus go crazy in everyone. Nah.
まさか兄ちゃんまでそのとんでもない話を信じてるわけないよね。
You're not telling us you believe such an outrageous idea too, are you, Mi-chan?
もちろんだよ。こんなわけのわかんない話が通用するわけない。でもなぜかみんな信じてるんだよ。私もわけがわかんない。
Of course not. There's no way I'd fall for anything that sounds that crazy. But for some reason everyone else believes it. I don't get it at all.
普段だったら絶対こんなバカな話は誰も信じないのに、なぜかここ数日妙な話やデマが当たり前のように通用して飛び交ってる。
Normally no one would ever believe such stupid nonsense. But these past few days, those weird ideas and rumors are being passed around like they're just common sense.
私は初日からずっと無線を聞いてるんだけど、最近の村人はどんどんおかしくなってるんだよ。異常な生活で心の緊張がとかトラウマがとか、そんな甘っちょろいレベルじゃない。
I've been listening on the radio since the very first day, but lately the villagers are believing weirder and weirder stuff. I don't know if it's mental stress or trauma or whatever, but calling it that is optimistic at this point.
明らかに嘘だろうデマだろうと思うことが当たり前のように横行し、それを誰も覆せない。誰かがそれを否定すると感染者扱いをされそうになる。
These lies and rumors are running rampant, but no one is doing anything to stop them. If anyone tries, it could be treated as one of the infected too.
すっごく気持ち悪いことになってるんだよ。何かが変だから用心して。
It's getting really awful around here. Something's not right with people, so watch yourselves. Ray and I were both left speechless by Mion's desperation. It was clearly a good thing that we weren't able to listen to what she's picked up over the radio. Thrust into these abnormal circumstances, the frustration had reached its peak, and that along with anxieties and fears founded on faith were producing new rumors one after another. And it was steadily approaching the point where someone would have to be sacrificed in order to clear those rumors away. Judging from Mion's expression, we are already approaching that critical moment. That was the moment I first realized it. That there was clear hostility in the looks the villagers gave us as we talked to each other. Apparently it wasn't just my imagination either. Reina was quick to pick up on that too.
ケイチ君、 用心しよ
Oh man. Ketchikun, protect yourself, okay?
そうだな。くだらないデマのせいで疑われるのは気に入らねえが、理科に冠ってこともあるしな。
Yeah. I don't like being distrusted just because of stupid rumors, but it's best not to fuel the fire.
う。レナもケイちゃんも無用の外出は避けた方がいいと思う。あとくれぐれも一人で外出しないように。家のシャッターは閉め切ってね。
Yeah. Rena, Kichan, you two should avoid going outside unless you have to. Also, make sure you don't go out alone, and seal your home up tight.
心ないことを言ってくる人があっても、どんなに悔しくても買い言葉を返さないこと。いいね。
If anyone says anything inconsiderate, don't provoke them, no matter how frustrating. Got it? The hostile looks I felt from time to time were too much to pretend I just imagined them. The accursed customs of a village that avoid contact with outsiders for centuries weren't about to be brushed away by a scant few years of civilization. Rena and I could only nod in acknowledgement of Mion's warning, the tense looks clear on our faces. Damn. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, not good. Metaphorical shit is hitting the metaphorical fan. Showa 58. HQ, General Affairs Division, Section 1, E-34. July 7th, 1983. Director of Disaster Relief, Hinamizawa Region. Evacuation orders, emergency. The Director of Disaster Relief is to evacuate the disaster relief units immediately. During evacuation, units are to follow directions of the National Institute of Infectious Diseases. Notes. Orders. 1. Orders. The disaster relief units will follow directions of the National Institute of Infectious Diseases and evacuate to the designated zone outside the quarantine. 2. Reason. The routine blood test detected a positive reaction for the type 173 virus in 4 squad members. This proves that the disaster relief unit's current equipment is ineffective at preventing infection. Showa 58, HQ, General Affairs Division, Section 1, E-35. July 7th, 1983. Commander of the 738th Equipment Test Company. Dispatch orders, emergency. The 738th Equipment Test Company is to deploy immediately with version 13 disease prevention equipment under the command of the Director of Disaster Relief, Hinamizawa Region. Notes. Order 1. Orders. As of today, the 738th Equipment Test Company will be placed under the command of the Director of Disaster Relief, Hinamizawa Region. The test company shall follow the Director's orders and deploy on site immediately. 2. Mission. Peacekeeping in the quarantine zone. 3. Remarks. Discharge of firearms will be authorized under the enclosed conditions. July 6th, 1983. Alphabet Project Board of Directors. Director of Disaster Relief, Hinamizawa Region. Regarding the 173 virus. This virus has been classified as a Category C neuroparasitic virus. What follows is an explanation of its properties. Of all the viruses that infect the human nervous system, this one demonstrates extremely strong compatibility with mankind. Also, due to the difficulty in identifying symptoms in the infected, its existence was not confirmed until the modern age. According to an unofficial investigation conducted by the UN in 1948, over 99% of the human species contains this parasitic virus within their brain. Furthermore, it has been pointed out that it's likely this virus has been with humanity from the beginning. As that all suggests, this virus is extremely well integrated into the human body, and the host is unaware of the parasite. This makes the virus very similar to other microbes within the human body, such as E. coli, I'll just say, which is commonly known of today. However, the problem with this virus is that we have identified the possibility of this virus interfering with the host's brain functions. This virus makes its host amiable to other hosts of the same strain, and it directs its host to be antagonistic toward hosts of different strains. The UN investigation has discovered several hundred strains that would be classified under this virus, and another shocking fact was uncovered as well. The distribution map of these strains, oddly enough, matches up with present-day national borders and religious distributions. Furthermore, it is suspected that each strain of this virus is deeply involved in shaping the foundation of its host behavior and personality. So the theory stands that the unique traits of this parasitic virus are responsible for several tendencies generally attributed to race or nationality. In other words, this virus is theorized to be indirectly responsible for all patterns within societies, personalities, and the cultures of different ethnicities and nations. Ah, it's the racist virus. The first to uncover the existence of this virus was a German doctor within the Nazi administration, and it's theorized that this discovery led to the administration's massacre of particular peoples. Oh boy. The UN Secret Investigation Committee has identified the possibility that this virus has indirectly led humanity to commit its most heinous atrocities, and they called for the extermination of this virus. That call being held back by the fear that such an objective could trigger ethnic cleansing. As a result, all research on the virus was perpetually prohibited in 1955, and they elected to discard the records of that research. This meant humanity would perpetually embrace this parasite and prohibit the further discovery of its existence as well. However, several countries continue to research the virus on their own in secret. Since there had been no exchange of information between these, the state of the research in other nations is unknown. Here in Japan, a research team was founded in secret by a group of medical schools in the late 1960s. The research is the foundation for these current studies. America has caught wind that this virus is the cause of the most recent incident, and they will be planning to steal our research. We must not respond to their attempts to claim that research disguised as offers of aid. Furthermore, amongst the strains of this virus, strain 173 is a rare variety which displays extremely dramatic symptoms. I don't know what that is as far as, here, I could look it up, couldn't I? Let me see, how would I do this? I could go Greek alphabet. I assume that's the Greek alphabet N, right? I'm looking. No, it's not that. Oh, it's this. Is it this? No, not really. Maybe it's not a Greek letter? No, it is. It's this. It's Eta? Eta? Ita? Basically the Greek letter for H. I'm left with more questions than answers by looking that up. I'm somehow left even more confused. I shouldn't have done it. Meanwhile, the sound effects of furiously typing away on a keyboard is happening. As I'm like looking at the chart where I'm like, furthermore, amongst the strains of this virus, strain whatever 173 is a rare variety which displays extremely traumatic symptoms. As I've already explained, traditionally this virus is extremely compatible with the human body and is totally unnoticeable. Yet the whatever 173 strain causes dramatic altercations to personality within several days of infection. The most significant change is the promotion of anxiety and aggression. Yet it retains the unique aspects of this virus, guiding those changes in psychology to occur naturally. The infected residents of the Inamazawa region already tend to strongly exhibit those tendencies, and have demonstrated the potential to cause certain catastrophes, mass riots, mass murder, within short periods of time. Direction of this matter should immediately be given over to the Alphabet Project, and as such it should be carefully investigated as one of our nation's assets. I'm confident that research in this matter will contribute to our national interest. Furthermore, the suppression of riots caused by this matter can only be conducted by the Alphabet Board of Directors, which possesses extrajudicial authority. I hope that you'll consider these factors before making your decision tomorrow. National Institute of Infectious Diseases. Head of Room 13, Iwashi. Iwashi? Iwashi. 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 July 7th, Thursday, day 11. As the disturbing atmosphere towards outsiders like the Maiber family grew stronger, there was another change that fanned the anxiety of the villagers. The SDF had been supporting the villagers' unstable lifestyles, as well as providing mental support, but they had suddenly disappeared from the village. The elders, who hated standing around in long lines before the water supply trucks, had already lined up early. But no matter how long they waited, the trucks weren't showing up. At first, we made the generous assumption that something had delayed them. The fact that the SDF's deliveries had always been punctual before only worked against them, fanning anxieties even higher. Once it was long past the scheduled delivery time, the morning line grew steadily longer, and the anger they felt at the water trucks for not arriving grew into anxiety, and finally into fear. The situation rapidly grew worse, and finally people began whispering that the SDF had abandoned us. Anyone would be shocked after hearing that rumor. The actions of the SDF were the final dam maintaining the villagers' sanity. With that dam suddenly removed, it was easy to feel as though the village had been cast out of Japan. However, there are a few villagers who weren't frightened by the SDF's disappearance. They had taken an optimistic view and assumed the quarantine would be lifted. Those people even tried to leave the village, yet something strange occurred at the barricade sealing us off. Oh. Instead of the personnel clad in white raincoats that had been manning the barricades before, there were soldiers blocking the path, wearing much tougher-looking camouflage gear that was more like a spacesuit. They even had an armored car parked behind them, too. Now, why did the villagers insist on calling them soldiers? Because the guns they carried looked that dangerous. At the very least, none of the SDF members performing relief efforts had carried guns. Not only were the soldiers carrying their own guns, but the armored car also had a heavy machine gun stationed at its top hatch, and they aimed its muzzle at the villagers without hesitation. After aiming, they issued a warning too. This is the JGSDF. You are not permitted to leave the quarantine zone. Please return to your homes at once. Seeing and hearing that made them certain. Circumstances had changed. The commotion about this dangerous virus had progressed to the point where it was beyond the SDF's control. Also, very small side note. Something I notice, I mean, it's not a deep thing, but like, Hinamazawa bus stop that we read last week, especially because if I'm correct about what I'm thinking and that it was written as kind of like a stage play kind of thing, it was mostly dialogue between characters, right? And then it's such a dramatic change to come to here where I would say over 50% so far of the reading has been just like narration. But I'm not complaining because it allows us to get through it faster. Just slightly. Anyway, circumstances changed. The commotion about this dangerous virus had progressed to the point where it was beyond the SDF's control. So they abandoned providing aid to the village and were trying to seal it away. That gave way to anger at the nation who abandoned their relief efforts, and even greater fear at the idea that things had progressed that poorly. The villagers tried demanding an explanation of affairs from the soldiers. Bang, bang, but they fired live ammo without remorse, intending to intimidate, and announced that they would target their legs next if they did not leave immediately. The villagers then scattered like spiders and fled back to the village. Uh-oh. Afterward, their story grew exaggerated, and people started saying some of them were actually shot and wounded or even dead, causing even further turmoil. Actually, there's still a chance that part about warning fire was all made up too, but there's no way to verify that anymore, and no need to, because that story wasn't being proven false, so it had already become truth. On top of that, some kind of jamming wave was emitted from somewhere, suddenly making the radios useless, leaving word of mouth as the only means of communication, which increased the turmoil even further. What a disaster! That day, the first gunshot rang out in the village. We couldn't know for sure if the soldiers trapping us in had fired on a villager, like the rumor suggested, or if some villagers had fired their hunting rifle. But as that gunshot roared through the village, the whole population fell away from the law and order of civilized Japan. The town council used their network to reach out and explain there was a mistake in the organization of relief efforts on the SDF side, and that due to the mistake, it'd be some time before the relief efforts resumed. They also asked the villagers to help one another until that time. Had that message been sent out before such great anxiety spread throughout the village, then they might have been able to improve things a little. But it was all too late. Even though the SDF had ceased supplying food and water, every house had at least some stored up. However, no one knew how long this delay of provisions would last. The noxious, heated air permeating the village was steadily robbing people of their sanity. Fearing that some insurgent might descend upon them in search of food, the shopping district had banded together and armed all the shops, forming their own neighborhood watch. Barricades taken from the dam site were lined up at the entrance to the shopping district. "We are closed indefinitely. If you have no business here, you may not set foot within. If you still insist on entering, then please discuss it with us at a case-by-case basis," read the sign they had posted up where the residents of the shopping district took their turn standing watch with hunting rifles. There was also another small flyer beside it. "Those living in Takatsudo, please go away." That one was based on the rumors of the infected in Takatsudo. However, as the rumors continued to grow, there would likely be more signs posted next to it prohibiting other regions as well. For a moment, we thought that we might be able to have more interaction now that the SDF was no longer quarantining us separately. But the youth groups in each town council quickly took up that mantle of isolation. Everyone believed that their area had yet to become infected, and they would remain safe if they kept out people from the other areas. Hinamazawa was fundamentally a farming village, but there were several people who had made their living through hunting since long ago, so the number of hunting rifles wasn't exactly small. Because of that, those who owned one volunteered to serve as guards. The number who volunteered directly translated into that town council's power. Either that, or it became their power to blur the line between fantasy and reality in order to realize their delusions of persecution. That day, it was July 7th, the day of Tanabata. Tanabata. Why does it smell like chicken in my apartment all of a sudden? Sounds like roast chicken. Sorry to be random about it, but I started. Is the smell of chicken something they tell you start to smell before you have a stroke or something? I did use chicken in the salad I had tonight, but I don't... Why would I just be smelling it all of a sudden? Oh no. Now I'm just gonna be left. It totally... It smells like someone lit a candle that's supposed to smell like roast chicken. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Let's not worry about it though. When we turned the television on, it displayed images of cute young children writing their wishes on boards and stretching out to hang them up on bamboo stalks. Yet here in Hinamazawa, our Tanabata-involved posted signs rejecting the infected up on violent-looking barricades, while many took up hunting rifles and glared at each other suspiciously. It was hard to believe that this was still the same Japan. Oh boy. Hinamazawa breaking down, me smelling roast chicken in my apartment all of a sudden for no reason. Maybe I'm infected. Late at night, my mother visited me. She was clutching an envelope in her hand. Kechi, just now we received a letter for you, Kechi.
手紙? 俺宛て?
A letter? To me? I snatched it up at once. It read to Ki-chan from Mion. What was this about, and during such a dark time? According to my mother, the doorbell rang, and by the time she reached our front door, it was shoved through the gap. She could have just come in if she went out of her way to visit. So the fact that she avoided doing so and left only a letter had me feeling a tinge anxious. though considering the abnormal state of the village lately, it made sense that Mion would be careful about trying to make contact. All the talk of this being an indigenous virus, or being Oishiro-sama's wrath could ultimately end with those people suspecting the outsiders who moved into town recently. The whole Maibara family was made painfully aware of that lately. Even before opening this letter, I could understand that things had reached the point where Mion, as a Sonozaki, couldn't visit us in broad daylight anymore. And yet the contents of this letter quickly informed me that it was still a naive point of view.
ケイちゃんへ気をつけて。うちの町会内で前原家と竜宮家をやり玉にあげようという意見が強くなってる。もう本当に馬鹿げてることだけれども、彼らは誰かを生贄にあげないと恐怖感に押しつぶされてしまうところまで追い詰められてる。
Tuki-chan, be careful. The idea that we should make an example out of the Maibaras and Ryugus is gaining more strength in our council area. I know it's a really crazy idea, but they've already been driven to the point where they'll be consumed by fear if they don't sacrifice someone.
そんなことしたって何の解決にもならないって反論できたのは最初のうちだけ。
I was only able to argue otherwise the first few times.
数日前からそうであるように、少しでも反論すると感染者をかばうのはお前も感染者だからだろうなんておかしな論法になっちゃって、誰もストップがかけられない。
But starting several days ago, if anyone tried to object, they argued that person was covering for the infected because they were infected too. Now no one's putting a stop to this talk of lynching you all.
ウイルスだとお社様のたたり派が互角だったうちは双方が支離滅裂な論争するだけだったからよかったんだけど、最近お社様のたたり派がのしてきてね、全体をリードするようになりつつある。
It was signed back when they were all evenly split between the virus supporters and the Oishiro-sama's curse supporters, since they've been just arguing coherently with each other, but lately the curse supporters are gaining ground. Won't be long before they're leading the whole group.
バッチャが元気だったならこんな暴走は許さないんだけど、実は数日前に高熱を出しちゃって起き上がることもできないんだよ。
If my granny were well, she'd never allow such a riot, but she actually came down with a fever a few days ago. Now she can't get out of bed.
一部の親類はそれを感染ではないかと吹聴していて、私の発言力もすでに危うい。いや、私自身下手をすれば生贄にされかねないよ。そんな立場の私にはこれ以上ケイちゃんやレナの家をかばう発言は難しい。
Some of my relatives have started spreading rumors that it's the infection, so I'm losing my ability to speak at the council too. Like, if I'm not careful, they could sacrifice me as well. With the position I'm in now, it's going to be hard for me to speak on behalf of you and Rena's family anymore. I could see that Mion's writing had steadily grown more hastened and sloppy as it went on. I didn't even have to ask to understand how she must have felt.
これ以上ひなみ沢にとどまることは危険だと思う。少なくともこのまま自宅に閉じこもっていれば私たちはいずれ必ず殺される。だから明日の夜に村から脱出しようと思う。
I think it's dangerous to stay in Hinamizawa any longer than this. At the very least, if we stay shut up in our homes like this, then sooner or later we'll be murdered. So I'm planning to escape the village tomorrow night.
周囲は自衛隊に封鎖されているけど、園崎家は秘密のトンネルを持っていて、そのうちの一つが封鎖線の外に出口を持ってるの。このトンネルは私とバッチャしか知らない。
The SDF is blocking off the perimeter, but the Sonozakis have secret tunnels, and one of them exits out beyond the quarantine. Me and Granny are the only ones who know about these tunnels.
バッチャの回復を待ちたかったけど、もう無理みたい。さっきバッチャに自分を置いて逃げろと言われたところ。
I wanted to wait until she recovered, but that doesn't look possible anymore. My granny just told me to leave her behind and run.
バッチャは
Damn.
この事態は古代の伝承の鬼ヶ淵の沼より鬼が溢れ出しの再来だと言ってる。今に村人たちに鬼が取り付き、村人が村人を殺し出す地獄絵図になると。
My granny is saying that this is a return to the ancient legend of demons coming out from Onifuchi Swamp. Right now all the villagers are possessed by demons, and they're going to start murdering each other.
伝承ではお社様がそれを収めてくれるんだけど、収めてくれるまでの間、血みどろの争いが繰り返され、 大勢の死者が出たと伝承に残している。
In those legends, Oshiro-sama managed to calm everyone down, but before they were able to do so, the blood-soaked conflict they produced resulted in a massive number of casualties.
私たちは殺されるよ。
They're going to kill us all!
それで本題。今夜中にケイちゃんの家族に話して準備をさせて。明日の夜迎えに行くからみんなで脱出しよう。持ち物は現金、保険証や通帳、印鑑類、あと重すぎない範囲でリュックサックに着替えや日用品を詰め込んで。手荷物は現金。
That brings me to the main point. Tell your family tonight about all this and have them get ready, Ki-chan. I'll come for you all tomorrow night, and then we'll escape. Bring your cash, insurance card, bank book, and family seal. Also, fill your backpack with clothes and daily necessities, but don't let it get too heavy. Don't bring anything you have to carry.
絶対に両手は開けること。靴はスニーカー等の履き慣れた歩きやすいもの。同じ手紙はレナにも送ってある。
Make absolutely certain you can use both hands. For shoes, wear a comfortable pair you can easily walk in. I'm sending the same letter to Rina as well.
ケイちゃんにはあまりに突拍子もないことで多分現実感が伴わないと思う。
This might seem like it's coming out of left field, so I doubt it feels real to you just yet.
でも信じて。私は御三家の集まりや町会の会合、そして無線で情報を集めていたから、この村を取り巻く異常さがどれほどおかしいかよくわかってる。
But trust me, I've been to the town council meetings and the gatherings of the three families, so I have a very clear idea of just how crazy the village has become.
私と同じ危機感を持って。ケイちゃんが私を信じて全ての行動を共にしてくれても、私は自分とケイちゃん、レナ、その家族が全員無事でひなみ沢を脱出できる確率は 10% なら高い方と見積もってる。
You need to understand how dangerous this is. Even if you have faith in and do everything I've asked, I'm estimating only a 10% possibility at best of you, me, Rina, and our families all escaping Inamazawa safely. That was the end of Mion's letter.
なんなんだよこれは。
What the hell? This whole situation was too much for me to take in, so I gripped my head. Yet Mion had entrusted this letter to me and asked me to trust her, knowing I'd feel that way. Once I took 3 deep breaths, I was able to realize that the danger Mion spoke of wasn't too far-fetched. Considering the festering attitude that had filled Hinamazawa lately, what she had written here was unmistakably true. At the same time, that made me fear for Satoko. It made sense the letter didn't mention Rika, who the SDF had in custody, but there wasn't a single word written here about Satoko, who had been left in the village all alone. The only names on it were mine and Rina's. There's no way Mion could have forgotten about the club members, so there's no way she'd forget to mention Satoko. So then why? Terrible imaginations assail my mind. Yeah, imaginations assail my mind, each of them trying to suffocate me. That's right, Mion already mentioned her. She told us that there were those who seriously believed that Oishiro-sama's anger would subside if Satoko were offered as sacrifice. No way. Is Satoko... I shot up from my seat and the metal bat leaning against the bookshelf fell down, stopping against my feet. It was almost like it was telling me to take it with me. That was when I heard a gunshot. Oh man, if this had been a normal peaceful day, I would have assumed it was some kid having fun by setting off firecrackers, bottle rockets. But because we were in such an abnormal situation, I didn't make those wrong assumptions, encouraged as they were by times of peace. Oh. I opened my curtain and strained to peer into the darkness when I heard another gunshot. I feel, you guys didn't see it, but it feels like the fucking, the Steam achievement there spoiled what just happened. For me, when I heard another gunshot, it sounded like it was even close this time. I thought I could hear someone shouting something nearby. Suddenly our doorbell began ringing frantically. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, bing bong. My mind became clear. All unnecessary noise vanished from my thoughts. Felt like I didn't even need to breathe. In that vacuum state, I picked up the metal bat at my feet and raced for the front door. Oh, he's got a bat. At the entrance, I found my mom cowering and my dad running in from the kitchen with a carving knife. Up until a moment ago, I would have thought it was strange for my dad to respond so violently, but in this exact moment, that actually felt like the proper response. My mom looked back at my dad, wondering if it was safe to open the door. He had her step away from it. The button for our doorbell was pressed at our gate, so whoever had pressed it now had come through our gate and was standing right in front of the house. Then there was a bang, 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 knocking violently on our door.
誰ですか?
Who is it? My father shouted. They answered immediately. Good evening. It's Ryugu. Please let me in. It's Rina. I leapt out from behind my father. From the sound of Rina's voice, this was an emergency and we needed to open the door right away. Even if we were plunged into a nightmare situation where the villagers had started a bloodbath, we club members would never doubt each other. Oh shit!
Mion! 大丈夫か?
What? Mion, are you alright?
大丈夫なんかじゃない。早く止血を。
She's not alright. We need to hurry and stop the bleeding. Rina was carrying a blood-soaked Mion, whose breathing was fading fast. Asking if she was alright was just a waste of time, not even a social courtesy. After that cry from Rina, we carried Mion in past our door and laid her down on the floor. Everyone do the dinosaur. Mion's left shoulder was badly injured. Mion's left shoulder was badly injured and her clothes were stained red with blood. Her clothes were supposed to be yellow. The shirt Mion loved to wear in her free time. That bright yellow shirt she always wore once school was over. That symbol of all our fun times together. That shirt that I was always happy to see. Was now completely stained a purest red. Hey, she needs help. Grab a towel or something. It's almost like a fun, not funny necessarily joke, but it's just the default. It's her default shirt. You'd always see her in this visual novel. You know, that shirt I always see her in, which is just true because it's a visual novel. That's her sprite. Mion was holding her wound with a handkerchief, but the blood continued to spill from it. Her handkerchief would have dripped blood if it were wrung out. It was impossible to tell what color or design it used to be and whether it was Mion's favorite. What on earth happened? Rina-chan, what's going on here? Fucking Dad, didn't you hear the gunshots outside? My father asked without putting away his knife. Rina frowned, having difficulty deciding where to even begin. Her expression made it clear that we didn't have time for her to explain. But did we even need an explanation? The bright red blood staining her body from when she carried Mion was better than any words at conveying the urgency of the situation. Are they shooting at the house now? Also, we could soon explain it much faster than any explanation Rina might produce, because moments later we heard a tremendous bang outside of our front door. Did she have a gunshot wound? We realized the situation without a moment to spare. She was shot. Someone had shot her outside her house. Oh, fuck. Serious business, Rina. She's got the hatchet. Rina spun around at the sound of that shot, all while raising the huge hatchet she had carried in one hand, even while carrying Mion. I scream. Kichi! I gripped my bat and chased after Rina, my feet still bare. I didn't even hear my father calling for me behind us. Rina! Just start swinging wildly. Rina leapt on someone standing at our front gate, ruthlessly splitting his head open with her hatchet. Holy shit, this is serious business, Rina. She doesn't give a single fuck. She's like, alright, my friend's been shot. I'm gonna start swinging my hatchet at people's heads. It's killer, Rina. The moment was unbelievable and all too short. Rina easily brandished her huge hatchet at another man and threw it at him with tremendous force. A silver glint of moonlight flashed off the blade as it soared into the man's face. The man let out a short cry as a small dark spray spewed from his head. My understanding of typical social morals made my brain want to shout, "What are you doing, Rina?" But I also wanted to know who was such a threat that they warranted this reaction. Nice. Once Rena reached the man stumbling around with her hatchet in his face, she roughly yanked it out, then slammed the long hatchet into his head over and over. Yep. Made sure I read that correctly. The man begged repeatedly for her to stop, but Rena didn't listen to him at all. Yeah, Rena seems to be, in this situation, much more a, what's that phrase? Fuck, I can't even remember the phrase now. Easier to, no, I was gonna say easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission or whatever. But that doesn't necessarily apply here. She's just like, I'm gonna start swinging at people. I'm tired of this shit. Once she confirmed he wasn't moving anymore, she spoke. Killing someone means that you're ready to be killed in return, so don't take it lightly. It was almost like those words were meant for me. From Rena's perspective, I probably looked like I was still too accustomed to peace to understand the emergency we faced. But that was when Rena turned and shouted. That man's still alive! Huh? Oh! The man Rena first defeated, the man that fired a gun at our front door, was clutching his forehead and trying to stand. He was already injured so badly we could probably let him go, but the thought was probably just me clinging to peace. Rena didn't have that thought at all. The man was holding his head with one hand, but his other was still holding his hunting rifle. The threat this man posed wasn't dealt with if he could still pull the trigger on his gun. Say goodbye to your face. The thick lump of metal swung into him once more. This time, the man's head cracked open. Rena turned back and glared at me. I was closest to that man, not Rena. Rena had shouted so I could take him down. Yet I stood there spacing out, so Rena attacked him. He'd had a gun. If he had been quicker, Rena couldn't have done anything from her position. That's why she entrusted him to me, but I just stood there blankly, still unable to grasp the situation. Her stern expression made me realize that, so I immediately apologized. Worthless, Ketchy. Sorry. It's fine, just hurry. Rena yanked her hatchet out of the man's head and picked up his gun with her other hand. Oh, she's got a dual wield? Even if you don't shoot, a gun can still be used to frighten opponents. Right. That's fine, just hurry up and get ready to run. Huh? Didn't Mion say she'd come tomorrow in the letter she wrote? There goes my false sense of security. Oh, yeah, but tell me, what on earth happened? I asked Rena as we ran back to my front door. You got a letter from her too, right, Ketchikun? Mi-chan brought the same letter over to my house. Oh, faceless man. God, you know shit's fucked up when, like, fucking villagers are shooting at Mion of all people. Mion's fucking, like, royalty in Hinamizawa. So that was when the neighborhood watch discovered her and shot her. Mi-chan hadn't done anything to them. All she did was deliver a letter to me and they shot her. They said the Ryugus were infected, and anyone interacting with them was an ally of the infected, but they decided that all on their own, and they shot her for it. Mi-chan hadn't done anything to them, but they didn't care, and they shot her anyway. Rena's eyes were full of anger and sadness as tears spilled down her cheeks. There wasn't anything I could do, or I could say to her, while she was possessed by those powerful emotions. When we returned to my front door, Mion had been given a towel for the blood, and my mother was with her, helping her put pressure on the wound. My mother was all shook up. The only medicines we kept in the house were Band-Aids, headache medicine, and cold medicine at best. Just stick a bunch of band-aids on the gunshot wound. It's fine. I'm sure it's fine. And yeah, cold medicine at best. We didn't have anything to help treat a gunshot wound. Reina came back into our house with more blood splattered on her clothes and staining her hatchet. Given the commotion that just happened, my father understood everything once he saw the hunting rifle in Reina's hands. Once Reina understood that, he did too. He spoke. She spoke.
おじさま、今すぐここから逃げなければ死にます。私のお父さんはもう殺されました。さっきミーちゃんを助けようとして、あいつらはためらわなかった。
Sir, if we don't flee this place right now, we'll die. My own father was already murdered. Just now, he tried to save Mii-chan, so they didn't even hesitate. Dead dad. They shot him as easily as if they were driving off crows. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Mion's mouth opened feebly after hearing Rina screams.
ごめん、レナ。私が閉じらなきゃ。本当に。
I'm sorry, Rina. If I had screwed up, I'm really sorry.
兄ちゃんは悪くないよ。そしてレナは誰も恨んでなんかいない。私が恨むべき人間は全員しかるべき生産をさせたもの。もちろん兄ちゃんを撃った人にもね。
It's not your fault, Mii-chan, and I don't hate anyone anymore. Those who deserve my hatred have all paid the proper price. So did the man who shot you, Mii-chan. Stone cold killer, Rina. Just moments ago, Rina watched her father get murdered and Mion get shot, and then she dragged herself out of that hell where even her own life was in danger. The expression on her face was one I had never glimpsed in our daily life, and it made me realize just how hellish it had all been for her.
とにかくすぐに逃げる準備を。もうすぐみんな押し寄せてくる。
Anyway, you need to get ready to run right now. The others are already closing in. Why? What are the villagers coming here for? What are they trying to do? There was no need to ask for an answer from Mion's bloody mouth. That was why my father swallowed his confusion. After clearing his throat, simply asked one thing. Run? To where?
みーちゃんの家の秘密の地下に村人は誰も知らない隠しトンネルがあるんです。そこまで逃げ延びればなんとかなるかもって。
There's a hidden tunnel in Mii-chan's secret basement that none of the villagers know about. As long as we can make it there, we should be able to pull through. Just go out on a limb and say it's probably not going to be a great trip to that secret tunnel. Mion's cough cough. Rina explained what was written in the letter on Mion's behalf. Mion still tried to explain, but ended up coughing instead. Dad, Mom, we don't have a moment to waste. Let's run. Right, let's go. Come on, you useless parents. My father registered the pressing danger. It only took several seconds to abandon his morals as an average member of normal society before nodding. But my mother couldn't make a quick decision. But fucking leave her behind! We don't have time for the indecisive. But if we run, what'll happen to our home? We don't know what's going to happen. If the villagers come here, they may very well burn our house down. But if my mother understood that, then her hesitation didn't make any sense. If they were willing to burn down our home, then what good would holding up inside do? Who knows what they would do to us then? My mother wasn't an idiot. Well, maybe that's exactly why she was so confused. At this moment, my father, who had been on edge since the first day of the quarantine, was the one acting reasonable. Still, my mother managed to regain some sense, so she went back in and grabbed only her handbag with our bank book. My father took the hunting rifle from Rina. He boasted that he knew how to handle one after using a similar type of air gun, but it was up to the listener to determine how reassuring that sounded. Useless parents. Mion told us to leave her behind since she'd only slow us down, but Rina slapped her hand after that suggestion.
ダメだよ。兄ちゃんじゃなきゃ秘密の地下はわからない。軽々しく責任を放棄しないで。私たちを導いて。
No, without you, we won't know where the secret basement is. Don't abandon your responsibility so lightly. Now take us there.
レナにかかっちゃおちおち死なせてももらえない。
Without you around, I can't die an easy death at all. Looked like Mion had recovered enough energy to talk back at least. But we couldn't leave her wound untreated forever. If we didn't get a proper doctor to look at her, then all that blood loss will lead to disaster.
ねえみーちゃん、問答してる時間はないから。
Are we gonna go try to find the pervy doctor? Hey, Mi-chan. We don't have time to debate this, so give me an answer. Rina glared at Mion with a dry expression and asked her just one thing.
どうしてさとこちゃんを抜きにして
Oh, she's got the weird eyes.
しようなんて言うの？
Why are you suggesting we should escape without Satoko-chan?
そうだ。それは俺も思ってた。サトコはどうしたんだよ、ミオ。状況的には俺やレナよりもずっとまずいんだろう。サトコだけ置いてなんかいけないぞ。
Yeah, I wondered that myself. What's going on with Satoko, Mion? She's in a worse position than me and Rina, right? Can't just leave Satoko behind.
さとこは
Oh, they updated her sprite. Look at that. They gave her a wound. Satoko's Mion trailed off, but Rina wasn't allowing her to get away with just that.
死んだなら死んだってちゃんと言って。じゃなきゃ私はさとこちゃんは生きているって信じる。
If she's dead, then just tell us. If you don't, then we're going to believe she's still alive. Without thinking, I narrowed my eyes tight. The image of the worst possible outcome crossed my mind more than once or twice. There's no way Mion would ever forget about Satoko. Yet her name was absent from the letter she wrote us. That left only one possible reason. Even I was able to imagine why, but I couldn't put it into words.
さとこはさっきボートに連れ去られたらしい。話では鬼ヶ淵に引き連れてったって。伝承の生贄の儀に沿って3日かけて沈めて殺す気らしい。
Satoko's been taken away by those rioters from before. They said they were dragging her to Onagafuchi. Apparently they're going to spend 3 days submerging her, according to the rituals passed down in the village. Yikes.
まだ生きてるんだな。
So, she's alive? She's still alive then, at least for now? Rina and I both latched on Mion at once. However, neither of us had any thought of blaming Mion for nearly abandoning Satoko. Mion used the information she was able to gather as a Sonozaki to make a logical decision, and after bitter deliberation, she decided she wouldn't be able to save her.
どうしようもない。どうしようもないんだよ。
I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything about it.
上官役員たちが温度をとって神社部と青年部防犯部がさらに村の有志も加えて100人以上に膨れ上がってるらしい。防犯部には猟友会も合流してて少なくとも20丁以上のショットガンライフルで武装してる。
The council's officials took the lead, and after they added the shrine group, the youth group, the neighborhood watch, and other volunteers from the village, their numbers swelled past 100 people. The watch is close to the hunting club too, so they're armed with at least 20 shotguns and rifles.
みんなお社様の名を連呼しながら狂気に取りつかれてるボートなんだよ。電柱は容赦ない。貞子をかばおうとした村人に躊躇なく発砲してる。
Everyone keeps spouting Oishiro-sama, like they've all been possessed. There's no mercy left in them. If I tried to protect Satoko, the villagers would have shot me to death without hesitation.
兄ちゃんや私のお父さんのように。
Like they did to you and my father? Mion nodded bitterly as tears spilled from her eyes. She wept at her own lack of power to stop them, and for the lost lives of the villagers who still tried to uphold justice.
なんでかわかんないよ。みんなつい3日前までは普通だった。冷静だった。この72時間でみるみるおかしくなっていた。みんな目が血走ったようになって冷静さを失っていた。
I don't understand. Oh, I thought I was getting cut off. I don't understand why. Everyone was normal just 3 days ago. They were reasonable then, but they've gone mad in just about the past 72 hours. Their eyes are bloodshot, and they've lost all reason.
自衛隊がいなくなったからおかしくなったんじゃない。その前からもうおかしかったんだよ。
They didn't go crazy just...
怖いのは殺人ウイルスなんかじゃない。
Whoops.
村のみんななんだ。
They didn't go crazy just because the SDF left. They were crazy before then. Killer virus isn't what's scary now. It's everyone in the village.
私思うんだよ。このウイルスってさ、人を死に至らしめるんじゃなくて、人を狂気に駆り立てるウイルスなんじゃないかなって。
I have a few thoughts. This virus, it isn't one that drives people to death, but one that drives people to madness.
そして村人を次々鬼に変えていって、お社様伝説をもう一度なぞり直すんだよ。
Making the villagers become demons one after another. Just try retracing the legend of Oyashiro-sama once more.
この事態を何とかできるのはお社様しかいない。そしてその生まれ変わりのリカちゃんはいない。
Oyashiro-sama is the only one who can resolve the situation. And her reincarnation, Rika-chan, is nowhere to be found.
それに、そもそもお社様は神様なんだよ。人間じゃないんだよ。私たち人間には何もできないんだよ。何も。
Jesus. Besides, Oyashiro-sama was a god anyway, right? They weren't human, were they? There's nothing we humans can do. Nothing!
落ち着け、ミオン。
Calm down, Mion. Just chill, Mion. It's okay. I crouched down, and even knowing it would aggravate her wound, I held her head tight and let her hear my heartbeat.
ありがとうな。俺やレナが事態を把握できず、のんびりしている間にも、ミオンは村の裏側で妙なデマを抑えるために、いろいろと苦労していてくれたんだよな。だから、きっと今日までこの村は狂気に飲み込まれなかった。
Thank you. Arena and I were taking it easy without realizing what was going on. You were working hard behind the scenes to try and stop the rumors. I'm sure that's why the village wasn't swallowed by madness until today.
ミオンの頑張りがなかったら、いずれ迎えていたかもしれない惨劇の今日は、とっくに俺たちを飲み込んでいた。
If it wasn't for your hard work, the inevitable tragedy we face today would have consumed us long ago.
だから、ありがとう、ミオン。
So thank you, Mion. She's fucking bleeding out, and she's like, I fucking tried. And Ketchy just kind of smirking at her. just fucking dying on the Mybra household's floor. Her final sight before just passing out. Mion was in the deepest ranks of the Sonozakis. It's like, this is not appropriate right now. Mion was in the deepest ranks of the Sonozakis, and even though she's just a kid like us, she fought all this time. She fought against the overwhelming madness of the village up until the very end. With her efforts acknowledged, she cried into Ketchy's chest. The tears she was shedding now were slightly different than the ones she'd shed before.
レナ、ミオンを責めたい気持ちもあるだろうが。
Rina, I know you might want to blame Mion, but
責める気なんかないよ。それどころか朗報だと思ってる。
I don't plan on blaming her at all. That's actually good to hear. Rina said casually. She's a strange one. Though it feels like the bigger the gamble, or the more dangerous the situation, the more composed she gets. Just like a blue flame. At first glance, it looks like it's just burning quietly, but it burns far hotter than a red one does. That's why I answered in turn.
ああ、そうだな。間違いなく、こいつは朗報だぜ。
I think that's a throwback to way earlier in the series. Unless I'm just going crazy or I heard the comparison made in something else and I'm conflating it with Higurashi from before. But I feel like, I think during the main series, I think there was some kind of comparison to Rina being a blue flame. That was like a whole thing. And it was like, yeah, it's fucking a blue flame. It seems more milder than a red or whatever, but it's actually quiet and fucking strong or something like that. But I say that, saying that there might be a chance that I just am misremembering or I heard it somewhere else related to something completely different and I'm just conflating it. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened in Higurashi sometime last year. Anyway, Kechi says, yeah, that's true. This is good news, without a doubt.
朗報だね。だってさとこちゃんは生きてる。
Yeah, it's great news. I mean, Satoko-chan's alive.
しかも72時間は生かしておいてくれるというおまけ付きだ。確かにこいつは朗報だぜ。
Top that, we know they'll keep her alive for another 72 hours. It's fantastic to hear. The bat I had been gripping began to grow hot in my grasp, almost as if the bat had been immersed in a blazing fire, the heat stinging the palms of my hands. Yeah, I know, Satoshi. There's nothing to fear when even you get serious. One hit from this will smash their heads in.
ケイチ、まさかサトコちゃんを助け出すつもりなのか。
Kichi, don't tell me. You're planning on rescuing Satoko-chan.
父さんは母さんと一緒にミオンを連れて裏口から逃げて、あとは俺とレナでやる。
Dad, take Mom and Mion and escape through the secret exit. Ray and I will handle the rest.
ケイチ。
Keiichi!
おばさま、ごめんなさい。
Shut up,
みーちゃん
useless
をよろし
parents.
くお願いします。
I'm sorry, ma'am. Please take care of Mi-chan.
そして目を離さないでください。みーちゃんは美味しいところだけを持っていこうとするずるっこだから、のこのこと私たちを追いかけてくるかもしれない。
Also,
大怪我してて辛いにもかかわらず。
don't take your eyes off of her. Mi-chan doesn't play fair and likes to steal the spotlight. So she might try sneaking off after us, even though she's badly wounded and in a lot of pain.
人を足手まとい扱いにしてさ。
Treating me like I'm dead weight. Judging from Mion's current state, she didn't really have that energy to do that. But she'd never be so heartless as to silently watch us head off. Mion absolutely would try to follow us and provide backup, even if both of her legs were falling off. But we can't allow Mion to die. We're not going to lose a single one of our friends. We won't let that happen. And Mion is our leader. Without her, there'd be no one to wrangle us wild horses together. No! Wild horses. Besides, she's also the only one who knows how to escape from this village.
ケイチ。
Keiichi!
みっともない顔すんなよ母さん。こういう時は火打ちして見送るもんだぜ。父さん、後で園崎家で会おうぜ。
Don't give me such a sad look, Mom. At times like these, you gotta send us off with a smile. Dad, I'll meet up with you later at the Sonozaki house.
ケイチたちも一緒に逃げるんだ。たった二人で立ち向かったところで。
Keiichi, you two should come with us. You can't face them alone.
おじさま、お気持ちは嬉しいけど、もう手遅れなんです。
Dad, did you not just see Reina just fucking, like, maul a couple people directly in the face, and they apparently had guns, and she just had a hatchet, and she was able to dispatch them? Are you failing to put this together? Sir, I appreciate the sentiment, but it's already too late. See? And they leave. Rina flung open the door, and we heard the hustling movements of a huge crowd chanting Oshiro-sama over and over like some creepy sutra. We wasted too much time dawdling. If we were all in top condition, I know I joked about it at the top of the stream here, but I was talking about how is this about like zombies, and it's not literal zombies, but it is insane-induced religious cult madness taken over people to basically make fake zombies. So I would say I'm like half right. Unintentionally half correct. If we were all in top condition and ran at full speed, then we would have had the option of running away from here like my father suggested. But since my father wasn't used to thinking like we do in our club activities, he was a move behind. So long as Mion was heavily wounded, we needed someone to buy time for them to take Mion and escape. And a normal person like my father, who still hadn't steeled his resolve after we were driven into this corner, wasn't going to be useful in the fight. The only ones who could fight were the club members thoroughly trained by Mion, who were able to release their limiters and grasp the severity of the situation instantly.
行こっか、ケイチ君。
Let's go, Keiichi-kun! Oh, we got a new music track?
そうだな。そんじゃちょっくら行ってくるわ。
Right. Let's go take care of this real quick. The bright farewell Rina and Keiichi left for his parents was almost the same as when they headed to school in the morning. But they didn't have their bags. Instead, they carried a hatchet and a metal bat. They weren't wearing their uniforms either. No, what they wore was enough of a uniform. Oh shit! Their blood-soaked clothes were a more than fitting uniform for that mad and crimson night. We exit out the front and close the door behind us, silently willing the others to run in that time. Beyond the door, there were the lights of several flashlights swaying like the breaths of ravenous beasts. Every one of them was chanting Oishiro-sama's name as they drew closer. There were probably the same number of people as our class.
ふう20人ちょいか連中勝てると思ってるかね
Wow, just over 20, huh? Think they can win?
思ってるんじゃないかな。まあ素人なら20人も群れればそう思うだろうね。
I'm betting they do. Well, amateurs would believe that when there's 20 of them together. Ha ha!
バカな連中だぜ穏便に済ましてりゃもう少し流らえただろうによ
What a foolish bunch they are. If they tried to settle things peacefully, they might have held out a little longer.
でもあいつらは間違いを犯した。
But they've made a grave mistake.
ああ犯した
Yeah, they did.
ミオンを撃ったサトコをさらった
They attacked Mion. They kidnapped Satoko. They
ワラ
went
ブに手を出しちまった
They went after our club!
こいつは絶
Okay.
対絶命のとんでもないミステイクだぜ
And that sealed their fate. Ray and I practically slid forward as he ran and hid behind the gate posts on the sides. Our quick movements were like a panther's after its prey. They certainly weren't the movements of a cornered rat. In this situation, it was... No. With the composure they showed, it was hard to tell who was being hunted.
なんでだろうね。私たちこれだけの人数を相手にするのに全然怖くないね。
I wonder why. Even though we're facing so many people, I'm not afraid at all.
それは確かに不思議だなどうしてだろうな
That much is strange. I wonder why too. If there was a world of dreams and daydreams, then in some other world, we must have already fought against much, much more powerful, frightening, and vast numbers. Yet we still overwhelmed them. So it didn't feel like we were going to lose to people like this.
ねえケイチくん、さっきみーちゃんの話を聞いてさ、ケイチくんも朗報だって言ってくれたけどさ、私は他の意味でも朗報だって思ったよ。
Hey, Kechi-kun, when Mi-chan was talking to us earlier, when you said you thought that was good news too, I thought it was good news for a different reason.
なんだよ他の意味って面白そうだから聞かせてくれいやあるいは俺もう気づいてるか
What? What are the reason? Sounds fun, so tell me. Or wait, have I already figured it out? Right now, Reno is wearing the same expression as me and smiling with confidence.
ケイチくんの場合は気づいてるっていうより別にそんなのは全くどうでもいいって感じかな。
It's not so much that you figured it out, as it just doesn't matter to you at all, really.
教えてくれよレナにとってのもう一つの朗報ってやつをよ
And tell me, what was this good news for you?
だってさ、敵は懲戒神社部と青年部と防犯部でだいたい100人ちょっとなんでしょ。それでさらに猟友会が加わって鉄砲が20丁以上。
Well, our enemies are a town council shrine group, the youth group, and the neighborhood watch, totaling a little over 100, right? On top of that, there's the hunting club with about 20 rifles.
やれやれまったくにもこいつはついてるぜ
Good grief. Luck is totally on our side, isn't it?
敵がたったの100人程度だってんだからな
Because there's only 100 to face.
まったく足りちゃいないね
There's not enough of them to go around.
俺はてっきり村全部が敵でよひなみ沢2000人を丸々ぶっ潰すつもりだったからあんまりの少なさに拍子抜けしちまってたところだぜ
I was convinced the whole village was our enemy. I was ready to crush all 2,000 people in Hinamizawa, so I was almost disappointed to hear there were so few.
100人を72時間で、そして今ここにいるのが20人。
100 people in 72 hours? And there's only 20 here?
バカにしてやがるぜまったくにもってバカにしてやがるぜ本気の俺とレナを相手に 100人を72時間でだって。
They're underestimating us. They're absolutely underestimating us. Taking down 100 foes in 72 hours when Rena and I both serious?
時間が余っちゃうかな。
Think we'll have time to spare?
むしろ足りないね。
Nah, there won't be enough.
やっぱり手こずる？
You think they'll give us trouble?
バカ、違うだろ。
Baka. Idiot. It's not what I meant. I chuckled. Together, we laughed. The 20 that had picked a fight with Mion were drawn closer. Then they finally got in range to attack.
さてお楽しみだぜ。72時間たっぷり楽しませてもらおうじゃねえか。
Now, let's have some fun. Let's have lots and lots of fun over these next 72 hours.
さとこちゃん、待っててね。
Satoko-chan, wait up for us. The 3-day-long Crimson Tragedy was about to begin. Oh, battle stance. Oh, shit. Those JPEGs, they are a-moving. It's Rika. It's Hanyu. We're seeing. Oh, she's smiling. Something going on. That's Satoko. Our first appearances. Action happening. Oh shit. My bloody arm. Oh, that doesn't look great. The club members were stationed on a hill overlooking Okinomiya. There was Kechi, Reina, and Mion, also Rika and Satoko, who they had rescued. They were all in worn-out clothes covered in dirt stains and dust, or otherwise soiled with blood. Those 3 bright red days were violently long, and passed by without a moment to spare on sleep. All of them were there, without anyone missing. The ferocious battle certainly did take place, but to the club members, only the result, their victory, was important. The deadly combat that led to this point was no longer worth remembering. All that mattered was that everyone had safely gathered here. What was even more important than that was the sight of Okinomiya in the distance. It hadn't ended. From here it was plain to see that the madness hadn't remained limited to Hinamizawa.
沖宮の町が
The town of Okinomiya too.
うすうすそんな気はしていましたよ。まだまだ終わらないのですわね。
I had a faint suspicion about this. This still isn't over yet, is it?
ウイルス騒ぎは沖宮にだけ広がったのか、それとももっともっと広大な範囲に広がったのか。
Has this
こ
virus
こから見るだけじゃわからないね。
Has this virus commotion only spread to Okinomiya? Or do you think it spread even further? Can't tell by looking from here.
世界は滅びちまったわけなのか。
Has the whole world gone to ruin?
わからない。でも私たちはここにいる。ひなみ沢の人たちだって全員がおかしくなったわけじゃない。
I don't know, but we're all here. It's not like everyone in Hinamizawa went crazy either.
そうですわ。未だに冷静を保ってる人たちだってまだまだいますもの。沖宮にだってきっといるに決まってますわ。
That's true. There's still those who retain their sanity even now. I'm sure there are some in Okinomiya as well.
偵察の必要があるかもね。
We might need to scout it out first.
言うと思ったぜ。
Figured you'd say that.
世界が本当に滅びたのかどうか、私たちは見届けなきゃならない。
We have to see for ourselves whether the world's really been destroyed or not.
村は食料も生活必需品もなくなりかけてる。追っても巻いたけど 村にとどまる理由もない。
The village is about to run out of food and daily necessities. We threw off our pursuers, but there's no need to stay in the village.
シオンさんが心配ですわ。
I'm worried about Shion-san.
となりゃ決まりだな。行こうぜ。町へ。沖宮へ。
In that case, it's settled. Let's go into town, to Okinomiya.
リカ？
Rika? Rika?
僕はここに残りますのです。
I'll stay here.
リカ？
Rika?
僕はひなみ沢に残るのです。この騒ぎが落ち着いた時、彼らに戻るべき場所がここであることを教えるために。
I'll stay behind in Hinamizawa, because once this commotion is settled, I'll need to tell them this is where they belong. Couldn't understand all of what Rika was saying, but I could understand she said she'd remain in the village by herself.
そんな危険でしたよ、リカ。まだ連中が私たちを探し回ってるに決まってますわ。
No way! That's dangerous, Rika. Those guys are still out searching for you, no?
大丈夫なのです。
Nipa!
かくれんぼ
I
が
knew
得
it.
意なのですよ。ニパー。
I'll be alright. I'm good at hide and seek. Nipa! Rika smiled like she usually did, showing us that we had no chance of breaking her resolve. Because Satoko was her best friend. She understood there was no convincing Rika once she gave us that look.
リカちゃん。
Rika-chan.
僕のことは気にしないでいいのです。それより世界を見てきてほしいのです。この騒ぎは終わりの始まりなのか、それとももう終わるのか、それを見届けてほしいのです。
You don't need to worry about me. I'd rather you go check on the world. Is this the beginning of the end of this commotion? Or is it already over? I want you to figure that out. Oh, her tiny hand. After telling us that, Rika waved her hand goodbye. We all prayed for Rika's safety and then slowly set off. Behind us, Rika spoke with a beautiful smile and a clear voice.
ファイト、なのです。
Cute. Fight! Aw, you guys! Fighting! What? Wait, it's playing this? Is this the same or different? I guess we'll watch it again. Wait, does this mean it's just now like starting? Is this like the title card almost? Pring. Pring. Wait, that's it? New scenario. Kame Kashimashi chapter has been added. Please go to the title menu, then press start to begin. Oh! Oh! That was it? Is that why it was locked? Is it a continuation thing? Is it like two different arcs, but they're basically... Oh, a continuation? Oh, boy. No, I didn't mean to click it. No, we're not starting this right now. Back. No, back. Back. Don't play the... Oh, the fucking hell. I'm the worst. Menu. Menu. Spoilers. Don't look at the screen. Close your eyes, boys and girls. I'll just close this. No, I know it's still early, and I still kind of want to stream, so we'll pick something here in just a second. But I think, even though me saying it's early, I kind of, you know, want to leave that I guess third and final one of How Plus for next week. So like I said, we should be able to read that potentially in just Tuesday, but Tuesday and Saturday if needed, and then we'll have, like I said, I think How Plus will be over. So that's cool. And we will stream Higurashi Tuesday and Saturday, barring any disasters, I guess I'll say. I will throw up a BRB, I mean. What do I want to play? Because it is still early, and I don't think I have any other plans I will need to do tonight. You know what? Let's do Crash Bash. Let's do Crash Bash 200% challenge. Let's continue on that. It's easy enough. I've got the PC all set up. We can do that. So I'll throw up a BRB. Give me about 5 minutes. I'm going to get some water as well and stuff. And I'll get Crash Bash started up. I'll get that old PS1 booted up. And we'll have that going here shortly. So be back shortly. Let me throw up a BRB. And yeah, I'll be back 5 minutes at most.